These are people who are coming back home after 2,600 years of being exiled, and these people are living their tradition daily, and they disconnected themselves from the present reality into a new reality here in Israel, and a lot of expectations, a lot of anxiety, a lot of hopes.
Что? Куда вы сегодня едете? Абрамишвили. Проходите, пожалуйста, в зал.
I'm very glad. I'm very glad. Why? It's my country. I think so. And I am very glad to see all of my family here. And now we are all in Israel, in our country.
In 70 AD, the temple and Jerusalem were distracted by the Romans, and since then we start counting the dispersion period of the Jewish people. Actually, Jews remained as peasants in massive numbers in Palestine for centuries to come, and we cannot count a true dispersion until after the Muslim takeover of the country, the Arab takeover of the country in the 8th century. In addition to that, we can follow almost a line of Jewish settlements, resettlements in the country in small number through the centuries.
התורה מארון הקודש.
אני מבקש לפנות טיפה אחורנית. עשה לי מעגל רחב.
מעגל רחב לאפשר לספר תורה לעבור, שיעבור מאחד לשני.
חבר'ה, אני מבקש טיפת מעגל. יוסי, עמוד ככה. שני הרבנים עמודים.
ואמרתם כל אחד רבי שמעון.
This tradition began 164 years ago. Every year, once a year, in our holiday, Lag BaOmer, we're taking the Torah and we are leading it to Meron Mountain. It all began because of the respect everybody felt for the head, this Rabbi Shmuel Abo, who bought all this land and actually who returned the Jewish land to Jewish hands. And he actually made a return for the, as we say, the Jewish settlement that used to deal with the Torah in the ancient time. And from that moment, every year, in the same holiday, in the same day, from this same house, it goes from father to son, and the tradition goes on. It's from this moment when the Torah is carried by the hands of people. You know, in the ancient times, they carried it really, they walked to Meron Mountain, or even carried it on donkeys. It took them 2 days. Today, we do it modernly by cars, but the spirit is the same spirit. So when the Torah comes to Meron Mountain, there are people of Meron waiting for him, and there are people from all Israel, and I think this is a unique joy. You cannot imitate it, and you cannot even invent it. It comes with this house, and it comes with the Torah.
The tradition obviously is very important to me. I was born and I live the tradition. Every day, every time I meet someone, if it somehow connects to Tzfat, somehow connects to someone that I know, someone connecting to the thing. So obviously, I present myself as I'm from the Abel family, the tradition of Tzfat.
During the long centuries of exile, Jews strove to come to Palestine in order to be buried there, because it was a mitzvah, a religious obligation to come and live in the Holy Land. The religious motivation drove people to take great efforts in order to come to Palestine. And even though it was difficult and sometimes dangerous, but these people never thought in terms of a national aim, a national purpose, and they did not strive to gain the upper hand in Palestine, to gain for the Jews the sovereignty of the country. It didn't even cross their mind to think in these terms.
Mein Vater ist gekommen, יש 145 Jahre seine gekommen von Teichmann. Sie hat nicht gewusst, dass Israel ist nicht weit. Und gemeint, ein Mensch, es geht einfach ein Jahr, bis sein in Israel. Danach dann, mein Seide hat gesagt, wir gehen in Israel. Die Familie hat gesagt, wo Israel? Es ist weit. Efter ein Jahr darf man gehen. Sie wissen sie nicht. Sie sagen, wir gehen. Al-Kedushas Hashem. Sind raus, 61 Nefesh. Mein Tate ist gekommen in Tel Aviv, wo hat gewohnt, mit Zugang mit alle Sachen, die Schapke, die Betten, sie ist ja nicht gewöhnt, wo sie sitzen. Sie hat gesagt von meiner Ima, ich will schon nicht Tel Aviv, ich gehe in Jerusalem. Ich will gehen in Jerusalem in meine, mir geht ein Zimmer, oder? Ich will gehen, vielleicht kommen zu Fuß, vielleicht da raus, sehen wir sehr in der Früh, in Balachter in Jerusalem.
My name is Efrat, and I'm her granddaughter. And it's very interesting of me to hear about her past and about the family past. And I heard her story many times, and every time it's new for me. This is a Bet Shalom neighborhood. It's called after the name of the village of Yemen. It's called also Bet Salm. And the people who came here called this neighborhood after this name. And also the synagogue that's here, it's called Bet Shalom. The synagogue is about 100 years, and all the houses in the neighborhood, it's of the Achlufis family.
زخوت الكنيسة زخوت العبد
התורה לדעת כי אדוני הוא אלוהים אין עוד מלבדו אין כמוך הוא אלוהים אדוני ואין כמעשךו יהי אדוני אלוהינו עמנו כאשר הוא עם עבדינו אל יעזבנו אל יתשנו הושיעו אדמך וברך את נחלתך וראה מנסם אדוני אלוהים קומו אדוני למנוחתך התורה ונוזכו כהנך ולבשו סענך וחסידך יבננו באמור דוד עמדך אל תושב פנים משיחך זכרו לחסדנו בנעמדך وإبن صاعون ويوم مشاغو أدنى يفوس وباخو وينوس مسناخو مبناخو اسمه الشماء وتغلو أسوي مغبتهم أدنى ملوخ اسمها أرسين وتغلو بنذي يودو لما أنش بناخو أشرهم شكوخلو أشرهم شادنو ألوهو.
We are two daughters from Yona Achlufi, from the family. We're talking from the shul. The shul, it's about 100 years. When the family come from Yemen, they brought the area. And the big area, they built the shul, the synagogue. And the synagogue is very, very old. We have many, many Torah. 28 Torah we have in the shul, and two of them they're very, very old. Two of them they bring to Yemen. When they coming to Israel, they bring two of them. One, it's the Torah is in a red paper. It's a red like antelope, the leather, and this is kasher. They after 100 years now they fix it. And now they call again, they read in the Torah. And we have a shofar too. And the shofar, it's very, very old. Even the museum in Israel, they want to buy it. But we can't give them because it's ours. Yemenite neighborhood, it's very, very old. Now they start to fix all the houses. They call this area Beit Israel. And many, many Ashkenaz come to live here. Very, very religious. So not many Yemenites live here. They come a little far to pray.
Jews always yearned to go back. It was a major idea in the Jewish prayers, in the Jewish holidays, and so on and so forth. Nevertheless, it was not associated with nationalistic aims. It had only religious meaning. Jews were waiting for the Messiah to bring them salvation. They did not think they should take their fate in their own hand. This started only with Zionism. Zionism is a modern national Jewish movement aimed at the return of the Jews to their historical land in Palestine, gaining sovereignty in this land and resettling it with a Jewish majority. It entails also a new Hebrew culture and an exodus of Jews, especially from Europe, to the Promised Land. Is Zionism a natural outgrowth of Jewish history? Not necessarily. I could imagine the continuation of Jewish history in the diaspora without the creation of the Jewish state in Palestine, had it not been for what happened during the 19th and 20th century in Europe, which brought about a revolutionary change in Jewish attitude towards themselves and towards the world at large. The first major turning point was 1881. This year saw the outbreak of a wave of pogroms in Russia, in Tsarist Russia, which destroyed the belief of Jews that progress would eventually come to this empire. As a result of that, Jews started to emigrate from Russia, mostly to the United States, but a small trickle came to Palestine. These people who came to Palestine, some of them came because they believed that here they can gain a better life. Others came because of religious motivation. And the third group among them, the Biluim, came because they believed that here in Palestine they can start a new Jewish society, a new life, and eventually, and this idea was not far from their minds, they even wrote about it, to establish here a Jewish independent entity.
אבא שלי בתמונה הזו מאחור, באמצע. אבא שלי בא ב-1882, שנתיים הם עבדו במקווה ישראל. הם באו תשעה חברים, עבדו שם שנתיים. ב-84 פינס קנה את האדמה הזו בגדרה, והם באו לגור פה, לבנות פה ולגור פה. אני עם החברים שלי נוסעים לתל אביב לאכול גלידה.
על חמורים.
על חמורים נסענו. 6 שעות היינו נוסעים לתל אביב, ושם היינו אוכלים גלידה על חשבון הנסיעה הזו.
ו6 שעות בחזרה.
ו6 שעות בחזרה בשביל גלידה.
Here you see אני מוכרחה להגיד בעברית, זה מחרישה ערבית הראשונה שחורשו בה, זאת. הכלי הזה זה בשביל להשקות את הענבים. פה היו שופכים את המים, ולמטה יש חור בקצה, ודרך החור הזה היו 5 ליטר מים לכל גפן, זה את הגפנים היו משקים. עכשיו זה מגל, וזה למעלה זה חרמש. Here is an oven. Here was cooking here on the oven, and it was one top, and we will need it more because it is enough for all family. This top, and it was soup with any vegetables, and meat wasn't. Meat wasn't. So are we living. And we was very pleased, and we was very smiling.
אתם רואים, זהו הסבא, אפרים פישל אהרונסון, הסבא שלי כמובן, מצולם יחד איתי כאן, בחזית של הבית, בפורים, כשאני פה ילד קטן בן 3, מחופש לטורקי, זה כמובן היה בזמן פורים. I explained to my son and my grandson that the picture I have in my hand is of myself at the age of 3 in a Purim dress-up, which is sort of Halloween festival, with my grandfather, Ephraim Fischel Aronson, the founder of the family and the one who came to Zichron Yaakov as part of the first Aliyah, the first group of immigrants from Romania who came to Israel to settle in Zichron Yaakov in 1882, in about Hanukkah, which falls around December 1882.
The group who came to Zichron Yaakov from Romania was a religious group of simple people who were not influenced by secular views and who were not exposed to modernity. And for them, the travel to Palestine was also a travel to the 20th century. For them, Zionism meant, first and foremost, toiling on the soil, productivization. And this was the meaning of their Zionist revolution.
So I'm in the middle of the Aronson chain. My grandfather, Ephraim Fischel, was among the first ones to come to Israel in 1882. My father, Shmuel, was the first born in Zichron Yaakov. He was born in 1883, a year after they came up. And here I am. I was born, of course, in Zichron Yaakov too, in 1925. And I have with me my son, Ran, who is a historian and teaching in the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, and my grandson, Gil, who is now serving his army service in the Israeli Defense Army.
I think everybody wants peace. especially when I'm a soldier now. Of course, it's a big concern of everybody. I hope there will be peace very soon. So my children won't have to go to the army, even my brothers. Also, I think it's a little bit far away. That's it. Right now, there is no peace, so I have to be here.
There's a point, because I always dreamed that my children, I have 3 sons. Gil is the elder, so I have 2 others, which unfortunately now I'm afraid I'll have to send to the army. And I thought, especially when the peace process began some few years ago, that maybe even Gil will miss it and may serve as a national service, as many other countries do in the Western world. Now, we are not so sure about it. But the main thing is going on, living, hoping for peace, growing up nice children, and going on with the chain of Aaronsons, of Israelis, for a better future, I hope.
That's the entrance to the house, original house. Here was the kitchen, as I recall it, and there were 2 bedrooms of both sides of the kitchen. Afterwards, only afterwards a little bit, this bedroom was turned into a dining hall, which was, of course, after they settled and they could earn some money and they could furnish it more beautifully than it was before. At first, they didn't even live in this house, because at first, the first 2-3 years, they went bankrupt. They had nothing to eat, and that's why they turned to Baron Rothschild to get his help, and that's when he introduced the wine growing into Zichron Yaakov.
Baron Rothschild, the famous philanthropist, he actually was the person responsible for keeping the Jewish enterprise in Palestine before the First World War going, because he poured an enormous amount of money to the colonies in order to have them going and to establish an economic basis for their living here. Rothschild had indeed a political aim. The way he bought land all over the country points to his strategic approach of having Jews in all the corners of the country, and he really believed that eventually out of Jewish settlement would come the Jewish state.
A year after my great-grandparents came here and established the Zichron Yaakov, they had a great crisis that you just mentioned at the family's house. And then Baron Edmond de Rothschild of Paris came to their help. And he changed the basis of the whole farming system into a new, modern, developed agricultural system, to which Grandpa Ephraim Fischl was combined as well. He was one of the first few vine growers to begin to plant and grow vine with the help of Baron Rothschild. So Baron Rothschild built those giant cellars, and he made all the farmers sent their products, the grapes, into the vine cellars to be produced. And not only in this place, in Zichron Yaakov, where Ephraim Fischl brought his grapes, but as well in the other moshavot of the first Aliyah of the period, and mainly in Rishon LeZion, where he built another cellars, even bigger than these ones. and the two were the basis for the cooperative of wine growers, Carmel Mizrahi, to which the whole family belonged till a decade or so, and which is still now the biggest wineries in Israel.
I think that Herzl appeared on the scene at the moment that he could have made an impact. Because had he appeared earlier on, the hope of integration was still strong, going strong. It was only against the background of the rising wave of anti-Semitism in the fourth quarter of the 19th century, of political anti-Semitism, that Herzl's mission could be accomplished. Actually, Herzl himself wouldn't have come to the Zionist conclusion had it not been for his encounters with modern anti-Semitism. As somebody said, Vienna of the end of fin de siècle Vienna gave rise to Freud, Herzl, and Hitler.
Herzl was the right man in the right moment, in the right place, because the Chovavei Zion, who preceded him, they waited for a leader. The idea was there. Even the organization was there. Even the people waiting for somebody to take these yearnings, these beliefs, and to be able to take them and to realize them. In this room sat Herzl, the writer, the journalist. Here he wrote his small stories. And here sat the prime minister and the foreign minister of the Jewish people. In this room sat the cabinet of the Zionist organization during Herzl's life. The room was in Vienna because Herzl spent most of his life in Vienna, and now it is here in Jerusalem. In this room we have another table, an original, an interesting table. It isn't from Vienna, it is from Paris. On this table did Herzl write his book, Der Judenstaat, eine moderne Lösung der Judenfrage von Dr. Theodor Herzl. This is the first edition of that book, and this book made Herzl. He was the first person who declared intensively, clearly, the goal. There is a Judenfrage. There is a Jewish problem, and we can solve it only by creating a state. You don't have to read the book. You know all the program here. Everything is on the book. We are going to create a new Jew, a new nation, a new state. And in the Jewish state, he cries and tells the Jewish people, we are one people, we are one people. And at the 19th century, we have the right to create a country for ourselves.
Herzl is still an enigma, and I think it's a wonderful enigma. He reminds me the myth of many a creator of states, the ancient myths, who usually do not come from among the people, but from the outside, a mysterious stranger who comes and changes reality. Moses was one like that. And Herzl also. He was, as I said before, a stranger to his people, an assimilated Jew. And one day, he got up in the morning and decided that he's going to be the new Messiah of the Jewish people. And he not only dreamt it, he also did it.
Herzl was born in Budapest in 1860, the secondary capital of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. He was raised in a secular Jewish family in which the German culture dominated. In 1882, he read Adolf Düring's anti-Semite book, Die Judenfrage als Rassen-, Kultur- und Sittenfrage, and he started to ask himself, what is the Jewish people? And from 1882, we see 13 years of struggle and 13 years of searching of his identity, existential identity. From there in 1891, when he was correspondent of the Neue Freie Presse in Paris, he met the French anti-Semitism. He met Drummond, he met La France Juive, and there in 4 years, he went through a surge that moved from seeing the Jewish problem as a religious problem, through social problem, to a national problem. And now in 4 months, he had the Zionist solution.
When Herzl came to his Zionist conviction, he was like a man possessed. He started with trying to convince the philanthropist of his crazy idea of having the Jews return to Palestine and the establishment of a Jewish state there. When it transpired that he cannot convince them to finance his project, he decided to go public, as they say, and approach the Jewish masses. And this was when he published his famous pamphlet, The Jewish State.
The Jewish state had a shocking impact on the Jewish world. Herzl, the well-known writer, Herzl, who is far from the Jewish question, is writing such a book. And from that point, the Jewish world had to decide or against Herzl. At the end of August 1897, Herzl decided to convene the first Zionist Congress. At the first Congress, it's the first time there is a program, the Basel program, that said that the Jewish people will or want to have Heimstätte, homeland, only in Palestine. And from that day, the Zionist movement was created, and the government of the Jewish people was created. And from that day on, there was a Jewish leading organization who led the Zionists to Eretz Israel.
Herzl was very naive in more than one respect. He did not know the Jewish people, and this is very, we have to thank history for that, but because maybe had he been more acquainted with his own people, he would not have dared to undertake the creation of the Zionist movement. He did not know the situation in Palestine at all. He was ignorant of what was going on in Palestine. And all in all, he was very naive compared to our sophistication this day. But I think that his naivete, his innocence, was a source of force, because had he known in advance all the difficulties, all the suffering, all the struggle that is involved in the realization of his idea, maybe he wouldn't have started. And we wouldn't be sitting here today talking about 100 years of Zionism.
Herzl, for me, is the most popular person in the last 100 years of the Jewish history. Look about the statues, about the plaques, the memorial. I have 900 pieces. I am the private largest collector about Herzl. If I don't have this collectible, the people don't look about the big man about Herzl. What is doing for the Jewish people? This collection is now in Herzliya because Herzliya is of Herzl name, you know. In the manager from the city, from the municipal city, come to ask me if I can bring my collectible to Herzliya. I said, why not? It's for me a pleasure.
October 1898, Herzl came to his first visit to Eretz Israel, and the first time that he could see the state. But when Herzl came to Eretz Israel, he came for diplomatic reasons, because to meet the Kaiser Wilhelm II and to persuade him to achieve a Jewish settlement, to agree to a Jewish autonomous settlement in Eretz Israel. He met the first time the Kaiser at Mikveh Israel. Mikveh Israel was the first agronomical school in Eretz Israel, and the Kaiser passed by, and Herzl stood there, and the Kaiser came to him and told him, it's hot, it's hot. You need water, you need water. And Wolfson, who stood there, took the photo. And then they went to Jaffa, and when they saw the photo, then there was the leg, Herzl's leg, and the Kaiser on the horse. And then they had to make a photo montage. They put Herzl on the roof of the hotel in Jaffa, and they made photo montage from the two pictures. And then we have this famous picture with Herzl with the Kaiser. And then Herzl came to Jerusalem. In Jerusalem, you could see his vision. In 4 days, he saw the vision of Jerusalem. He saw the solution of Jerusalem as a part of the Jewish state. He saw that surrounding the old city that's the city, the holy city, we shall build a new Jerusalem, a new modern Jerusalem as capital of the new society that will be born in Eretz Israel. Herzl met with German diplomats, with Austrian diplomats, with Russian diplomats, with British diplomats, all in trying, with the Pope in 1904, with Victor Emmanuel I at Italy. All of this context to try to achieve the Jewish state for the Jewish people.
When he started out, the Zionist movement was non-existent. Actually, it was an ephemeral movement with few adherents and even less money and resources. When he died, it was a movement that the statesmen of Europe took into consideration as a partner, as somebody to talk to. And this was an enormous achievement. It was something unbelievable. How come this journalist, this man of leisure, I would say, how come he succeeded in opening the doors of the corridors of power all over Europe? How did he make the statesmen listen to him? Why? Why should they listen to this elegant, good-looking stranger who had nothing to offer except a vague idea of the return of the Jews to their homeland? And somehow he succeeded in convincing them that there is something behind this idea, that it can be done. And he also succeeded in convincing an enormous amount of Jews. People suddenly felt that they have a new identity, that they are not just individuals, but they are part of a national entity. And this was something that he created single-handedly. And it was an enormous achievement.
July 1904, Herzl died. His death occurred a shock in the Jewish world. The Jewish world cried all over. But even after the death of Herzl, the Zionist movement continued on the basics that he led. Herzl asked the Jewish people in his testament to remove his body to the new country after it became a reality.
My name is Gabriel L. Herzl. I remember coming to this place from my childhood. This place is the Mount Herzl here in Jerusalem, a mountain that is a national monument of this country. And here on top of the mountain are buried the remains of Dr. Theodor Herzl, which were brought to this country by then the newly government of Israel a year after independence. That was the year 1949. Today I came to say a prayer. Like every year there is a memorial day on the 20th of Tammuz, which is the Hebrew calendar month appropriate to this year, the 25th of July, when Herzl passed away less than 100 years ago. I came to say the religious prayer on a person who has died, and this is the Kaddish. The dream of peace, as Herzl, Dr. Theodor Herzl saw it, and actually as the founder of this state saw it, is not fulfilled as far as it goes for connections with our neighbors and peace in between us, the people who live in Israel. Many things still have to be worked on in this country. Many parts of the dream did come true though, but still the feeling is that things go wrong once in a while, and that maybe the state of Israel with its 50 years of age is still in its childhood era and has to overcome a few difficulties which perhaps will bring it to maturity in a few dozen years.